Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Well, hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thug. Welcome in, everybody. Today has been something, that's for sure. Guess we can start off pretty heavy. It was news to me, if anyone's familiar with Outside the Overton, Zeb Boykin has officially sided with Ben Shapiro against Nick Fuentes. Now, this to me was tragic news. I'm sure many of you also felt the same. Kind of gave me that feeling of, when you've waited all day for that piece of pizza you know is in the fridge. And then when you open the door, it's not there. That was the feeling that Zeb left me after watching their stream earlier today. No, just kidding. Just a little bit of trolling, but we are going to get into that. This episode was titled The Takeover because it is obvious and clear, I think, to anyone even from the outside looking in, that there's an obvious civil war happening in the Republican Party and conservatism in general. And from that, I think also, and we'll look at Aspen Gold and some others, that it's clear and obvious that one side is winning. One side has the majority of the sway. One side has the majority of the influence. One side isn't having to go to extremes to get their point across. And this is obviously all fallout from the Tucker and Nick interview, which I would imagine is not going to be let go anytime soon. And yes, Christ is King of Kings. Amen. And so we have a lot with that. So today's going to be largely a react stream because there's a lot coming out. Now we have takes from Brett Cooper. We have takes from Mark Levin. We have takes from, insert anybody who's a Jew. They probably gave their opinion already. And then overall, we have some other bad actors. So I would say Steven Crowder, who we're going to take a look at. Also kind of similar in the same vein as Seth Dillon, essentially making a claim about how someone needs to debate somebody. But I still haven't seen the invite, Steven. Show me where the invite is, Steven, for Nick Fuentes to be on your show, and then maybe we can talk. But there's a lot to get into, and largely, again, a lot of this is the public reaction to Ben Shapiro and his response to what he had said from Nick. Now, I know we covered that. We're not going to look at it again. But what we're going to look at is all the actors on the outside involving, like Mark Levin, for one, but thank you for subscribing. But secondarily, more importantly, I think is Brett Cooper, who I think is be a pivotal voice in this, seeing how she kind of had the similar exit as Candace Owens. And then Candace Owens was also named in this video, which, truth be told, I skipped past a lot of it because I've already seen a lot of these clips. But there was a section in the middle of that video that Ben Shapiro highlighted remarks made by Candace Owens, kind of like in this general kind of broad encompassing sweep of look at all these actors doing the similar things. And Candace Owens, she comments and I expect we're going to get a long-winded response from Candace Owens. I don't know if that's coming today. And shout out to Candace Owens. She actually moved her show back to 5 p.m. because I told Candace, I was like, listen, you got to let the real white dudes have the 6 p.m. slot. And she called me back and she was like, that's fine. She moved her entire show back to 5 p.m. just for me. So I appreciated that greatly. No, obviously trolling. I didn't talk to Candace Owens. Zeb did. They're in cahoots. Candace loves all her African Americans. Anyways, one thing I would like to do is Marcus Young. I know he's in chat pretty often. I know many of you might not be familiar with him, but he's been in the community for quite some time, especially before I did anything worthwhile on YouTube. Shout out to Marcus Young, one of these people, another one of these individuals who I enjoy talking with and having conversations with. Shout out to him. He ended up getting a new job at a law firm, so shout out to him. Because I am failing to respond to people's DMs and messages, so please forgive me for that. I'm trying my absolute hardest to keep everything in order. We're also getting work done for you guys. and figuring out what the best plan of action with that is. Also, another shout out to Michael Johnson. That's a project we have upcoming. Michael Johnson and I will be covering, well, largely Michael Johnson, me just platforming him, covering how to get involved, right? This idea of the March of the Institutions. So shout out to Michael Johnson again, because that is coming down the pipeline. He's sending me videos and intros almost daily now, and the project looks like it's coming along pretty well. He also, I believe, and I don't want to spoil too much, but he went to Idaho and got a certain special somebody to also be a part of this project. And so I'm sure you guys will be excited to know who that is when the time comes. And also a special shout out, I don't know if she's watching or not, but if she is, special shout out to my mother, who also helps make this entirely possible because she babysits my daughter so I can do show prep and pay attention and get videos out. So major shout out to her, especially when my wife's working and stuff. So let's get into it.
Straight through, offensively accurate, that's the view.
So the first thing I would like to look at actually is a coming back to the controversial clip from Nick Fuentes. This clip circulated, I believe, on Thursday, or it was Friday morning that this clip had circulated because it was from his Thursday night show last week. That basically all of the Wignats and the white nationalists who are anti-Nick for whatever reason, and there's a lot of ego involved, and some of them it's just ideological differences, they grouped them, they came at him, right? It was like this 44-second clip. I think it was like a just under a minute long. And I felt like I was one of the few people who gave a defense. And similar to Josh Vanderdoord, we covered this on the Groper Report on Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. weekly, by the way. And as we were covering this, my broadest takeaway from it was the idea that in the broad sense, what people were doing was taking this 44-second clip and trying to find something, in my opinion, that wasn't there, and somehow elevating this 44-second clip as if these words, we'll take him at his word here, but we're not going to take him at his word literally any other day of the week, any other thing that he said, and let alone on that show too, because what followed right after that clip about the birthright and uniting with people of multiple colors was him talking about what it means to be Christian and what the American identity is and the identity in Christ as well. So I felt like I was one of the few defending him, and ultimately, I'm also not in that camp of the Wignats, not like the Thomas Sewells. And obviously it was very, very, controversial, explosive, spicy. And this is kind of continuing the pattern here, which is there's a lot of individuals, and I'm going to jump in too and say there's a lot of people who are ankle biting Nick. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what you want to say, your thoughts and opinions are, whatever like little beef and small beef you have with it, it's like, point me to someone else who's doing more. Like, point me to someone else who's doing more. Point me to someone else who is pushing the Overton window as hard as this kid is. I can't even say kid, he's 27 now. I just like the overall is like, so that's why I made the joke, I made the reference to Zeb, which is like, are we seriously teaming up with Ben Shapiro to attack Nick right now? Or like, can we hash these ideological differences out at a later time? And overall, too, what came with that as well is the more strategic idea that I had about the clip was the idea that, yes, and everyone knows this, the Israel First camp is literally on the verge of disappearing, essentially, on the verge of being on their way out. And we can see that. They're obviously losing their grip largely. You can see that with just ratios constantly on the timeline. Now, X is a bit more right-wing biased. And so I just basically said, a few streams ago, that my idea, my thought process going when he had said that was maybe it was potentially a slip up. But even if he had meant it, it's like, would you not want to unite with as many people as possible to win? Right? Is that like not what this is all about? Now, there does seem to be a kind of, what would I say that? Not like I want to say a mind virus, but like this. I get the urge and the angst and the anger of like wanting to do more, feeling like it's hopeless and blackpilling. But then the majority of the guys who are saying that is like unmarried, don't have children. And truth be told, I get their argument. And this is the one thing that I was afraid of for quite some time. And I've said this for Lord knows how long, anyone who's followed me for any period of time. What we can't have is both an extremely growing blackpilling or nihilistic faction on the right wing. And then what's paired along with that is these guys have nothing to live for. Like if you don't have a wife, you don't have kids, you're not invested, you don't own a home, like none of us do, you don't own a car, then yes, of course you're going to see, it's going to be much easier for you to see beyond the barrier to go, oh yeah, I can definitely do this. Why isn't everybody doing this? And it's like, well, not everybody has the same commitments. Everybody has the same responsibilities. And so we kind of have like an uneven kind of demographic of men who are like in the space. And so I think there's part of the reasons for that too. And you also have to add in, there is a major age gap, right? There's a huge like age difference here. You have a lot of, and I've noticed this, a lot of the older gentlemen who are, far right are also kind of a bit more stickly in some of their beliefs, harder to push them off from where they were at, harder to get them to see reason if they were already convicted. And that's just kind of the way that it goes. Just in general, right, is it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And so there's a lot of things going on in it. But to go back to the clip here, we'll go ahead and play this out. This is, again, Nick Fuentes addressing the constant attacks that he took for basically 4 straight days from the end of, for the beginning of Friday morning until basically the earliest this morning today. It's about 6 minutes long. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but we'll get the main idea across about halfway.
Operation Wetback 2.0 sent $50. My feed was filled with Fuentes for birthright citizenship. Is that true? Separately, do you believe just because a Mexican was born here that they have a birthright? Mexicans were only 4% of the pop-up until 1970 and are the largest collective of welfare recipients, etc. A foreigner in the Bible
Sorry.
is determined by paperwork.
I fixed the mic.
Well, I love that. I'm glad you brought that up. So on my show last week, we're talking about Israel first versus America first. And I said that Josh Hammer, his wife is Israeli. His kids are Israeli. I said, they're not even from here. I said, if you're from here, if you're born here, I said, this is your birthright. This is America. And I saw all of my ankle biters in the pro-white movement took that clip and they said, is Nick Fuentes endorsing birthright citizenship? Do you think that is the point of that clip? We're talking about America first versus Israel first. We're talking about people that literally are foreigners. They're foreign nationals, bossing us around, intimidating us, controlling our system. In this context, I said, if you're born in America, if you're a citizen, this is your birthright.
Now, truth be told, like, I could catch myself, like, I mean, I could feel that I would say something like that too. Like, if I was just passionate in the moment and I was like, if you're born here, right, like, it's your right. And then I can see people trying to find like the nuance in there. Oh, he said people were born here. Does that also mean? And, and it's like, if you're getting in a passionate rant, it's like, and you have people trying to make these semantic arguments over those specific words that you used, and also being opaque to all the words that were said previously, all of the sentiments that had been pushed out just even in the last couple of weeks by the same person. That's why, to me, it feels very disingenuous. And I'm trying to understand what people have to gain by taking Nick out. Like, that's what I don't get. It's like, is the idea that, like, what, you attack Nick and you get groypers to stop following, which never is going to happen. So what then? Like, it's almost like those people want us to, like, be force-fed a violent revolution. It's like, we finally seemingly are making ground, and all we can do is talk about all these minute differences. It's like, I guess to me, that's the part that I don't understand, because it's a lot of it's coming from people who are like, we need to win. This is how you win. And then also are ankle biting. Now, ankle biting might be a loose term, because some people, I would say, did argue with decent criticism, but there were people who definitely did ankle bite. One of them in particular, Arval. Arval obviously, I think, has been pushing that. But if he tried to reach out to Nick via DM, like, I guess, like, I don't find that to be, I don't find it to be ankle biting, but he was also doing stuff in public. Had it just been the DM, it would have been more understandable. But Arval being one of those people, Devon Stack, black-pilled, right? And it's in the name too, right? Like, black-pilled, like, of course the guy's just, enjoys being a bit of, being miserable for somewhat. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm still where I'm at and always have been, which was like, I want to win. Like, I want my country back. I want my country to be Christian. I want my politicians to be Christian. Like, can we get these easy wins first? And then, is it still bumping? Hopefully it's not still bumping. Tell me if it is, James Mark. You seem to be the one that's picking it up. But I guess I just don't get it. And to me, when you're reading it, when you read a lot of this on X, and I do a lot of it making the videos, it just, after a while, it feels so feminine. Like, you see some of the attacks against them, and it's like, man, this is how women bitch each other out. This is not how men are supposed to have discourse. Because it is a lot of sniping and swiping and not substantive in any degree. So take that for what it is. Here's the rest.
And people, their interpretation of that is, oh, so anchor babies Own America? Really? That's what you got from that? Me telling people Americans should take pride in being American. That's what you got out of that? And what was funny is the only people that heard it that way were like so-called white nationalists. Isn't that amazing? Because I haven't proven that I'm pro-white. Like, I do a show every night.
Expand on that. Well, first, tell me what you think Nick's solution is, and then secondly, why it won't work. There's another person where you trust in, nobody's going to fix this, but as us as a collective by force. And again, like this is like the Fed posting stuff, which I understand the sentiment, but I guess what is Nick's solution, if you could articulate that? I know it takes some time to type, so sorry for the dead air, but I know Gen Z is probably going to respond. I appreciate that. Thank you. If you did recently find the channel, I know I probably will get and I'll speak for a moment on that too. Like, I put out a video earlier today, one of the most lower effort ones I've done, because it's very simple, just kind of compiling Ben Shapiro's remarks versus what Nick's were, and then give my take at the end. It's like the best video I've done, like out of my last 10. Well, it might take Gen Z a moment to comment, but this is the idea. It's like, what is the he says, oh, it's political, and like he said, infiltrate the agencies and colleges won't fix anything. And that's where I would just heavily disagree. Right. Even in the New York Times, you ended up getting from Dreher, right? What's his name? Rod Dreher. So take it, I mean, again, from the New York Times and from Rod Dreher. But the idea that like in Washington, D.C., there's like 40% from Rod Dreher, the estimation is that from Republican D.C. staffers, 40% of them are estimated to be Groypers or Groyper adjacent. This idea, to infiltrate the politics, like, of course it is, right? Because the only other option you're leaving on the table is revolution. And like we've talked about multiple times, this is the easiest way to make somebody stop talking about it. You first. You lead. You collectivize it. You put it in the title, and then pretend like the government's going to allow you to get any further distance on that, right? They wouldn't even allow Waco. We have Ruby Ridge. That's just simply not the game we're playing anymore. This isn't third generation warfare. We're not fourth generation warfare. We are in fifth and sixth and seventh generation warfare. We're talking about psychological operations. We're talking about information warfare. The game being played is on a completely different level. And so I get the sentiment to look back at the founding fathers and use them as an example, but you have to understand the means of which the war is being used, the means of which you have to, and you say you hope you like gulags, but brother, I'm telling you, when your revolt fails, you will have made it worse for everyone. When you hike up this revolt against this system, which I'm not saying is impossible, but I'm saying it's a very high chance of failing, you will make it worse for everyone else. And this isn't me trying to downplay it. It's just saying, what's the idea there, right? Can we go beyond just saying, look, we need violence? Okay, how? Right? Like how? And then again, I'm not saying Nick is a solution. Nick is clearly pushing the Overton window. I don't think anyone can deny that. I think denying that Nick is pushing the Overton window is being extremely disingenuous or just being ignorant. And I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm trying to actually, theorize right with this to go, right? So you have to, if you have nothing actionable, right? This is kind of like what I was taught when I was in agriculture and I was doing a lot of mechanics. If you're going to complain, you need a solution. It can't just be, no, not this. And then when I say, well, what that? You go, okay, we'll just shoot people. It's like, that's just not how it happens. It just isn't. You need something more than that. Now, if you're able to actually build something out and get a more idea, then go ahead and go for it. But as of right now, we have to use the means that are in front of us. And I'll say this time and time again, as a student of, Jeff Younger, right? Which is just being a pragmatist, being a realist, just wanting to be realistic about what is in front of me. It's not trying to downplay things, but it's about being actually realistic, right? And I'll say it time and time again. And I think all the people who are pushing that stuff, it's so unrealistic. It's just LARPing. And I hate that. I'm not even trying to be rude, but I'm just being honest, right? That feels like extreme LARPing. It's like, maybe if we were doing some of this stuff, well, you say calling it vid posting, I mean, like it literally is. Like, you post that stuff in my Discord, like, you will get kicked out. Like, you're not going to RICO a bunch of people who have what wives, children, and lives going on who are trying to just basically live their lives. And then you come in there crashing out without a reasonable plan, just saying you're gonna attack this person. It's like you realize you're becoming no different than a leftist. Just violence for the sake because you're in a bad situation with no real kind of actual goal or attainable vision. Now, what Arvol's doing, that's a solution. That's a cultural solution. I can accept people who would say we can go to Arvol. It's meaningful. He's pushing it out. It's nonviolent. Makes sense. But yeah, this nihilism and this idea that everything's all fucked and there's zero fucking chance and that like everyone's completely owned is like, come on, dude. Like this is not Hollywood, right? Like we're not playing Starship Troopers. There's no fucking Palpatine. It's like you have to pull some of that back, right? And this isn't an attack on anybody directly. I know I'm kind of addressing Gen Z. I appreciate you, Gen Z, truly, for being honest with me. But it's like we need more. If you're able to come back with more, then it's like, okay, maybe we can talk. But just leaving it at force, us rising up against them, it's like, that's what the left says because they actually don't know what they're talking about. And again, not trying to be rude. And again, nobody attack Gen Z. He's pushing an argument here. Be reasonable with them. But this is basically the clip, right? And so this is what people are responding to. And so we kind of moved away from what the actual solution is from the March of the Institutions versus versus circumventing it, right? And I guess you could add a third one in there: March of the Institution, accelerationism, and then revolution. There's kind of like three options. You have the cultural what's the word? The cultural solution that's Arvol. Ultimately, though, I don't think will be nationwide. I think works in different areas that can have it. Arkansas being one of those places. And it looks like they're expanding in the South as well. But getting back to the point of what this was about, this was more so to the uniting of basically non-white people and a kind of a question of his allegiance, right? And I think I saw a post from, I think his name is Zach Kidd. And he was kind of pushing the idea that we're afraid of kosher anti-Semitism. It's like, the goal isn't to be anti-Semitic. Like, I understand, obviously, right? The shorthand, whatever, dude. The goal is that I get my fucking country back. That's the goal. I don't care about anything else. Getting my country back, putting women back in the kitchen, getting Kash Patel and all of his friends out of this country, like, that's what I care about. So it's like, some of this other stuff is just like, we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Every night. And they took this little loophole semantic thing and said, oh, so I guess he's in favor. And this is why I have a real problem with a lot of white nationalists. It's not because of what they believe. It's because of how they act, which is, shouldn't you be supporting me? Like, isn't this a time when our people should be circling the wagons around each other? Like, there's this all-out attack from the Republican Jewish Coalition, from Mark Levin, from, like, we're in the battle over American sovereignty. Shouldn't you people who are supposed to be pro-white, like, I'm not pro-white enough suddenly? In what way? Because of a semantic way that you interpreted that? And they use it as an opportunity to attack me, to one-up me, and score a point and say, oh, I'm going to take the piss. This little clip, yeah, I like Nick, but this was no good. Really? And so everybody that did that is dead to me.
And that's basically the clip. He goes into further detail of some of the people who did it, goes into some of the more of the ankle biting, but that's it, right? And I'm zooming out to an extreme degree and not being specific, not for any reason, but largely to say I do generally look at things trying to pull myself out and look at the bigger picture. And to me, that's what it feels like. To me, it feels like Arvol teamed up with Ben Shapiro, who teamed up with Seth Boykin, who teamed up with, and the list goes so on and so forth. And you're allowed to disagree. I'm not saying we all need to be 100% aligned. But that's what it seemed like. And I just question, like, what is the goal there? And I completely agree. Jackson, who put this in here. Yeah. Digital ID, propaganda, and brainwashing. It's at a level where disagree is baked in, where people cannot unite either mentally or physically to enact actual change. And this is what I say all the time. Like, Like, go to your, I'm serious, go to your local Walmart and tell me that white men are going to have a revolution in this country. Dude, you are lying to yourself. And that's just on the physical. And sorry, I'm bumping the mic again. But that's just on the physical. And this isn't like I'm trying to shame people. It's just like, again, we're not being realistic. If we all can understand in the same breath that the average white dude is some, racially cucked loser who watches sports nonstop on the weekend, slaves from a 9 to 5, and has his wife tell him what to do every minute of the day, that those same people we're all going to collect it. It's not happening anytime soon. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you. To me, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like people are being extremely disingenuous because they just want to get across that they don't like Nick. And that's fine. Like, if you don't like Nick, that's fine. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking, like, those positions just don't even feel real. It feels like to hold them, you're only holding them to get some other point across. But maybe people are that black pilled, right? Maybe people are like that miserable and they can't see the way out. And maybe, and truth be told, when you have algorithms pushing the stuff nonstop, when you feel like you see Laura Loomer nonstop and Mark Levin and Randy Fine and no one's pushing back on it, I get that. I do. But to throw it all the way for like a less than 1% chance for everything to get considerably worse, is like, I think that strategically, I would have to disagree with that even being on the table right now. Everybody thinks my voice is AI, dude. There's like nothing I can do about it. I used to get mad at it, and now it's just like, it's a compliment, dude. Like, what am I gonna do? It's the part of me that's black. So anyways, moving on to the public's reaction to Ben Shapiro in general. Yeah, episode 109. Isn't that funny? I thought about putting something like that in there. I'm glad that you caught that too. But the more featured aspect of this is the larger kind of reaction here is we are living in two different realities. You have people like Joel Berry who have posted, I mean, nonstop since basically the thing has happened, but the one that blew me away, the one that absolutely blew me away, Gen Z said, when Zeb has my guest Maddie on, I want you to be there to push back. Definitely. DM me or something when that's supposed to be happening, or have Zeb get a hold of me. Cause yeah, I'm itching for a debate, man. No, like I said from the Sunday show, when I debated Sean Semenko, I was like, or with the guys against Sean Semenko and Chuck, I was like, man, like, I can do this. Like, I can hold my own. But back to Joel Berry. Joel Berry's obviously been making a bunch of posts. He's in the Seth Dillon crowd with Abby Libby, No Soup for Knowles, and the same usual actors who always are pushing pro-Israel stuff and then complaining that there's not enough Palestinian children who have been killed yet. And let me just show you the post. I think the thing trying to describe it is not going to do much justice. This is the post, and it'd be easier just to take a look at it. Joel Berry here, he makes this statement here on the core of the Christian right, and it's also about Heritage Foundation and obviously Tucker Carlson. But what does he say exactly? Joel Berry says Heritage Foundation and Tucker are on their heels after last week. They didn't expect this level of backlash. What? The core of the Christian right in America held strong, and I'm very happy about that. So this is somebody who's living, I don't know where, or maybe they're just being intentionally lying, trying to convince other people who see this tweet that they are also are not delusional. But that's just, it's simply not what's happening. And so let me take you to somebody who has been recently getting into politics, but I would still say largely is non-political. And this is what Aswin Gold had to say. Aswin Gold, Ben Shapiro's side is losing massively. His brand of conservatism is dying. So who's right? Right? Who is right? Is Joel Berry correct? Is the core of the Christian right? Well, I mean, I guess an argument to be made is the core of the Christian right, this extreme pro-Zionist group who would literally annihilate all American interests to just support Israel. Possibly, I'm beginning to think that too myself, but no, and I would heavily disagree. Now, for the screeing and the whinging online, and you can even look at some of the ratios too, right? When you look at the fact that when I had looked at it, we'll just use the ratios from when I looked at it. Ben Shapiro's response video had about 23.3 million views. It had around 11,000 responses to it, comments, and about 43,000 likes. Nick Fuentes, I believe, quote tweeted it a couple hours after Ben Shapiro had posted it, getting significantly less views, around 4 million. But when his post had around 4 million, the post itself had over like 122,000 likes with almost like less than 1,000 comments on it. I think, again, I agree X is biased, so it's not a complete one-for-one representation, but I think that by itself shows like, at least that's circumstantial to showing there's significant influence and audience agreement on one position, but not on the other. What I would also add to there too is the people who are agreeing with Nick are typically not in positions of influence and are typically more in tune with the American people. The ones who are agreeing with Ben are the ones who have accounts that have far-reaching influence. So take that into account as well. But this is Asmongold, and this was Asmongold's take. And Asmongold said that Ben is losing, and we stand Asmon here.
Ben Shapiro's side is losing massively. They are massively losing, at least on the internet. On the internet, there is an overwhelming support of America first, Israel last policies. I think some of this is fueled by genuine anti-Semitism. Some of it is fueled by, class frustration. Some of it is fueled by just very simply like not wanting foreign countries to be involved in your country. And so anyway, this brand of conservatism, I think, is dying. It's dying.
Indeed it is. It is dying. And gripers are going to begin to gripe the conservative movement, which is good. But I agree with Asmon here. And I think, quite frankly, either Joel's, I don't know. I don't want to. No, Joel's probably lying. I think Joel's just outright lying. I think he's just trying to convince his audience that what he's saying is true, being delusional. I think they call him Asmon Groiper around these parts. Right? Asmon Groiper, actually. yeah, reacting Seption. And I guess to me, it's just overwhelming. And I don't expect that this news is going to be leaving anytime soon. It's obviously the peak of the fight in terms of where politics is at. And one thing I was going to say too is you have to remember, like, we're all on the same team, right? Like, well, for the most part, I imagine some of you in here are just almost said a bad word, YouTube. Anyways, but we're all on the same team, right? And that is as long as you can say Christ is king. Can you say Christ is king? Okay, that's step one. Can you say America first? Okay, that's step two. Can you say like we need to be more pro-white? We need to return to tradition? Do you say we need to remove some of this mass degeneracy? Do we need to those like we're still on the same team, at the end of the day, like. And so what we need to not do is get so caught up to the point that we create enemies amongst ourselves for minor reasons. Like, we need to be unified, right? And I think if we can learn one thing from the left, it is like, it didn't matter how insane the left was. What mattered was that they were unified. And we need to start searching for that sometime. I used to think we could start putting it off, but I don't think we can. I think we have to find some more unified fronts to get behind, because I fear that we will become a flash in the pan moment because we will not get out of our own way. That's what I fear. And to think like, all of this could be for naught. It's like, that's too much to bear. Way too much. And I got children. No, losing is not an option, actually. For me, it's not an option. But that was Asmongold's reaction there. And the overall reaction was just insane. And there was this article that came out from the New York Times. I put it on screen here. Well, if I can click the right button, Lord have mercy. And this is from Gina Batempa. I literally have no idea who this is. Just some stupid woman on the internet. She says, Nick's haters are now, checks notes, comparing him to James Dean. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And you see this Dinesh D'Souza. Maybe she's a Nick fan. Maybe I'm just speaking out of turn here. But Dinesh D'Souza says, see what New York Times is doing here? They are promoting Fuentes as a new James Dean to exacerbate the divisions on the right. Like... Well, I do got to say, like, New York Times has been aura farming like crazy off of Nick, and maybe that they're just trying to make money. There could just be that. Like, I think Zeb said it best earlier on his live stream. Hate to cover Nick constantly, but Nick is the news, right? Nick is the mainstream right now. But why is Dinesh D'Souza, aura farming for Nick, right? Like, they're out here like maxing it out. I just don't get it. But they're freaking out about this article. And so this article is specifically titled, Nick Fuentes was Charlie Kirk's bitter enemy. Now he's becoming his successor. This article has some crazy portions to it. But the one in particular I'd like to highlight without spending too much time on the article is this. And so this was highlighted and this was going viral too. I included a little bit of this in the video I made earlier. But Rod Jair told the New York Times that he has it on good authority that 40% of Republican DC staffers under 30 are groypers. And this is the snippet here. This is a friend of Vance warned. So that's the part I want to make sure you get in there. Rod Jair warned Vance. He told Vance, he said, listen, you answer to the groypers now. But this is where I kind of wanted to get to kind of make this come all full circle with what we were, what me and Gen Z, Goy were talking about, which is, if that's the case, then what do you mean there's no political solution? Now, truth be told, I would heavily estimate those numbers are way overestimated, but could it be 20%? Definitely. And of that 20%, I would imagine they may not be groypers in name, but they could be, what's the word? Like adjacent enough that they would move to those positions, or they would play ball a little bit. And there's always been this thought, right? What was his name? Paul Ingrassia? Paul Ingrassia was the, if you remember the first group chat leak, right? The first group chat leak that was orchestrated by Gavin Wax and taken out against a bunch of the young Republicans across chapters around the nation, but largely just attacking, I think, some of the ones that were in New York. What followed was literally a week later was a second group chat leak, and this was Paul Ingrassia. And Paul Ingrassia was somebody who had publicly supported Nick in the past and had said things that are very our guy-ish. And the question is, well, why did they do that? Well, because they wanted to purge him out. They wanted to get ahead of time because he was getting ready to take on a high-up position. Now, it wasn't I don't think it's technically a cabinet position, but I think he did need a Senate confirmation, and that's why they aired the article. Is because they aired the article, some of the people backed out, now he doesn't have the votes, and I haven't checked up on that story since then, but Paul Ingrassia was somebody who almost got in, and would have been, at least at the very minimum, adjacent to some of these ideas. I think quote, one of the messages, quote, said he has a Nazi streak in him, and that's what they use to kind of outline him as being this awful person. But that's kind of the idea, right? And the thing is, and I don't know if I made this statement on the Grape Report or not, but are you guys seriously telling me that if a new Republican coalition presented itself, take Republican out of it, say a new political coalition came together and it was led by Tucker Carlson, MTG, Thomas Massey, Dave Smith, kind of put all of the people who are adjacent, not groypers, but are adjacent, right? They're not as bad as the regular Republicans, but they're kind of halfway. Are we saying we wouldn't vote for a Steve Bannon, Alex Jones, Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of ticket over the current administration? It's that's clearly in the strategy of incrementalism. They are a step away. And this is why a lot of these individuals are just named aren't involved in the Trump administration, right? Now, Steve Bannon obviously is a different different card in there. He's kind of goes back and forth. But I agree, they're not groypers. But they're also not the Republican GOP either. I get MTG. I know MTG is she gets people both ways. But the point being is they clearly are closer to where we want them to be than the current iteration of the GOP. And this is how you play ball politically, right? That's the incrementalism aspect of what do we call it? The political strategy. Now, if you're not doing that, it would be accelerationism, right? Which would be what it seems to be what you guys would rather do, which is withhold your vote, crash the party, force them to answer to different strategies. But that seemingly has not worked in the past. I mean, Nick couldn't get it himself against Trump with was it Grape War 3? Is that the one that we're on? MTG is grifty. Trust me, this is not an endorsement of anybody that I just named. My point being is their rhetoric and the positions they would hold are clearly better than what we're getting from currently with the GOP, right? Between Tucker and all them. Obviously, they're not going so far as to talk about Christianity and Judaism and the like that we would like them to be, right? In terms of being as pro-white as we would like them to be. But at least on the instance, forgive me, of removing the foreign influence, being America first, right? Being less of a constant wallet for every other nation in this country. And but again, I was one of the people who was in the accelerationist camps. The only issue is I just not enough people are going to be accelerationists with us, right? We would need a lot of people to withhold their vote to make it actually meaningful to the GOP. Like that's kind of the idea behind the accelerationism is you need a lot of people behind it. But that article, I recommend people definitely reading it, right? From our what was her name? It's like Alexis Middleberg or something, like some weird looking Asian lady chick wrote it. Never heard of her before, but she's that's who wrote the article, at least that one. I typically follow some of the people in the New York Times, but some of the worst reactions. So we'll react to some of these here. Some of these random Israeli accounts that somehow find their way onto my feed that I really wish they didn't. I have no idea who this is. I see her constantly. I want to know why. And maybe because they've tagged me as someone being anti-Israel, so I'm constantly getting spammed with this stuff. But let's listen to this as much as we can handle it.
We are living through some kind of fever dream, which just doesn't feel real and doesn't make any sense. Turning Point USA's silence, the White House's silence, the Heritage Foundation silence, arguably the three most important conservative institutions on the face of the earth right now, their silence in the face of what Tucker Carlson is doing is beyond shocking. Tucker Carlson can host a Hitler fanboy.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan.
All state
It's
prophet,
well,
didn't
he was
know.
also
That guy's
really
insufferable in
fucking
acts.
cool.
He can host a Holocaust denier who said that not Hitler, but Winston Churchill was the main villain of World War II. And also, Hitler didn't mean to kill all those Jews. He just didn't know what to do with all his prisoners of war.
That I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War. You know, Germany, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of prisoners of war, and they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there.
And he can host John Mearsheimer,
Same here,
who
Dad.
literally compared modern-day Israel to Nazi Germany by saying that Israel did this whole war because of...
Okay, so we don't need to do the whole thing, right? Like this is what Ben Shapiro did. This is the soy jacking. Ready? Everybody look. It's like, dog, dude. It's like, hey, listen, like, we actually agree with the guy. hey, we actually agree with the dude. Like, there's no soy jacking here. But it's just like, it's the same. It doesn't work anymore. Like that's not what they're not getting it. It doesn't work anymore. You can't put a mid-woman screaming on a video and expect me to clutch my pearls and join in with you. It's just like, it's simply not true. Especially when everyone's social media feed has been getting utterly graped to death by this kind of content since the has borrowed 20 times their funding. What was it, like in 2024? I don't know if that was on October 7th, 2024. I don't know if it was on the anniversary. It's on some of those days around 2024. They like to be very obvious with some of the stuff that they do. We don't need to watch the rest of that. But this is some of what you're seeing. It's this kind of reaction. It's like, oh, Nazi. Like he even said it, like, oh, Nazi. And it's like, ma'am, I don't think you understand how utterly fatigued we are of your fucking bullshit. And again, I shouldn't be cursing this much. That's my bad. I'm doing a terrible job by that. Ma'am, we're living in Weimar. And you're standing in the way. Every day I wake up, I'm reading either about some kid who's getting picked up by a Muslim and raped before they even hit the age of 3. I'm watching teachers run gangbangs in their classrooms with a bunch of 15-year-olds. I'm watching as our No New Wars president is about to start 3 new war fronts. I'm watching as the New York Times and the mainstream politicos are defending naked pride parades in front of children. I could go on. I could go and go and go. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if you're not going to hear us, then who gives a shit? You cry all you want, dude. We're going to start trolling you with this stuff now. Like, you lost. And to think, like, maybe there was a chance at some point you could have had a conversation, but you didn't. You tried blacklisting, you tried lying, you tried censoring, you tried hiding, and the jig is up now. And truth be told, it's hard to tell people to like not be so hateful and frustrated. It's like, listen, dude, you guys have all this authority and this power and this influence, and you've been doing this to the American people at the behest of what? You know, either for a foreign nation or for a religion that's not even Christian. Like, yeah, dude, Those are fighting words. That happens in any other period of time that would already have been a war. Miss me with your pearl clutching of all these bad words. You who, I'm guaranteed if I looked up that girl's thing, it'd be like, we need more glass Gaza. Where's all the dead babies? I need to see more dead Palestinians. Go and defend, just like Nick said, go and defend Dave Rubin, who's buying, artificially inseminating a woman so he can deprive that child of its mother, so he can adopt a son and raise it in a household of 2 gay men. You know? You know? So, on to one of the next reactions here. This one blew me away. This one absolutely blew me away. This is Randy Fine, and this has been numerous, absolutely numerous. Randy Fine said that Jews have been kicked out of every country we've ever lived, and it's never been our fault. I'm not even joking you. My mouth probably, I looked like, right, like just jaw drop, like. For a number of reasons, this is just insane. But I can't even believe he said it out loud. So let's play this. Yeah, let's kick him out of this one too. Yeah. Like, right, like you're getting deported. Like, you should be glad that we're just deporting you. Right? Like, you've annihilated our nation. Like, you should actually be thanking us for us giving you a boat to go anywhere else on.
Time where we need fighters. We need people to go out and fight. We need people who are not going to be afraid. Because if we stay silent in the face of what is coming, not only on the left, but on our own side as well, our time in this country could come to an end as well. Jews have been kicked out of every country we've ever lived, and it's never been our own fault. And there are people who would like to do the same to us here. And unfortunately, some of them are in our own party. But I can promise you this, as long as I'm in Congress, they ain't going to win. So thank you guys for having me.
Why am I getting so many Jews in my comments? Am I getting force fed to Israel? Am I being live streamed to Israeli channel 12 right now? Do people coming with the stupidest comments? But there it is. You know, that is a quiet part out loud, if you will. And not even that. That's not even a quiet part out loud. That is a, if you have moved to this position where literally any other statement that fits X, right? If you replace X and Y, blacks have been kicked out of every country they've ever lived, and it was never blacks' fault. Well, I mean, like, you could, no. This asshole was kicked out of every gym he went to, and it was never his fault. This woman has been kicked out of every barbershop she's ever lived, and it was never her fault. Like, come on, dude. How is he even an official? Who voted for this person? Who lives in Florida? And then he's wearing it. He's wearing his little hat there too. Just like, dude, America is a Christian nation, and no. And that's the thing too. I think a lot of it is also people kind of a little bit afraid to say these things because you don't know if you're going to get picked up and extradited to Florida because Seth Dillon's going to call it in. Yeah. This guy pushed back on my X post. I'm going to need you to arrest him. Pathetic people, dude. They have nothing to stand on, so they have to use every other mechanism. Character assassination, censorship, anything, dude. This is the left. Same thing, anyways. Just Lord have mercy. And then one of the next ones here, we have this also from Randy Fine. And this kind of blew me away because I just don't know how people continue to support this guy. But it's from Evan Kilgore, and Randy Fine wants to make it a hate crime and put you in prison for 5 years if you criticize Israel and Jews. So let's take a listen to Randy Fine, once again, defending anything besides America.
And again, I would remind you that there's no First Amendment right to conduct. There's a First Amendment right to speech. And the things that we're targeting in the bill are not speech. Again, if someone wants to stand across the street from my house and wave a sign on the sidewalk, they have every right to do that. And this bill won't have anything to do with that. But when it veers into conduct, and so the way we're going to approach this is through a hate crime kicker. So if you graffiti a building, it is a crime now. But if your motivation is hate, it will be a third-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in prison. If you want to litter, it's a crime right now. But if you litter and your motivation is a hate crime, it will be a third-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in jail. It is a crime right now to hang banners from an interstate. For obvious reasons, we don't want to distract drivers. But if you do that and you have a hate crime, a hate motivation, it will be a third-degree felony.
What are we doing? What the actual F are we doing? But I'm not surprised. Randy Fine's been maybe one of the most aggressive people about this. I don't know if he ever ended up deleting one of the tweets that he had, but he literally had one talking about, you know, the streets running red with their blood. Like, the guy is like on Hassan level of like constantly calling for like the most vulgar accounts of violence. Again, that is Rep. Randy Fine, who's in Florida. That guy needs to be deposed somehow. Like, he needs removed from office and arrested. Abuse of power. Hell, he needs to be removed from office. He's not a Christian. I mean, that we got to get to that standard. And I think, you know, what's funny too. The funny thing with all of this is it's like atheists are at the bottom of the totem pole. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, if you are an atheist in the year of our Lord 2025, like, you are the biggest loser out of everybody. Like, it's like the fighting factions, the fighting influential factions are between the three Abrahamic faiths, right? You have the Christian right, basically Christian conservative America. You have the Sharia law bringers, right, from the Middle East, and then you also have the Samson option bringers from the other part of the Middle East. It's like, that's the three like vying powers right now. Now, part of the issue is that, you know, right-wing America will tell you that number 1 and number 3 are on the same team, and that's a lie, and that's been a lie. And whether they do, they try to paint number 2 as being the only enemy present. And then you have atheists. They're not even in the conversation. Oh, do you go to church on Sundays? You go, oh, no, I'm an atheist. They go, okay, well, the kids' table's over there. Like, it's just funny to me. It's like, you know, the liberal secular crowd is just like not having a good time right now. You know, they're over there with like, what's the guy's name? Scott Johnson or something. Like, they're trying to figure out how to live to be 120, like, you know, sacrificing their own children for their firstborn's blood. And like, I'll get 20 more years. It's like, this is a extreme success. And it's like, I'm going to go to church and read my Bible. Like, have fun with that. I did see that, by the way. Somebody talked about the guy who had the cops show up. And the crazy part is they showed up without a warrant. And I think now there's 2 instances of that. I don't know if they both happened in Texas. But yeah, you know, you criticize Israel? Knock, knock, knock. Hey, I'm your local sheriff. Well, that's crazy. This is the first time I've ever seen my local sheriff. And what are you here for? My post about Israel. Oh, man, this is the first time ever meeting you guys. What a crazy coincidence. This would be the only time I've ever seen you in the neighborhood. Wow, like, you know, they were drag racing in the Walmart parking lot for 7 straight hours last night. I didn't see you one time. Oh, this was more important. Oh, okay. You know, I'm somebody who comes from this city. Like, trust me, I cannot stand police, dude, whatsoever. They are the biggest cowards on the face of this earth. And I have friends who are cops. But absolute cowards, dude. At least the ones that were near me. Dude, I'll get pulled over on the highway outside of the city because that's where they all live. They all hide out there. Like, there's a call. They're like, we have a distress call. There's a gang shooting on MLK Drive. I'm taking a nap. Like, I don't know what they do, man. But it ain't their jobs. That's for sure. And so there's just a lot of this, right? Now we can cover more, but I really will not like to. What I would like to show you, though, is the fact that CNN is teaming up with Ben Shapiro, and this is legit. So this is from Permabola, who many of you probably do follow on X. This is from Permabola. And so CNN did a 5.5-minute segment attacking Nick, Tucker, Kevin Roberts, and the Heritage Foundation. And they used an era segment from Ben Shapiro. So this is CNN. Similar to what we saw with the group chat leaks, Gavin Wax is in for months in coordination with one of the left-wingers from Politico, making sure they can orchestrate such a beautiful story, a smear story, to just wipe out the careers of multiple Republicans, because how dare Gavin Wax not be the leader of that group? Here is CNN teaming up with Ben Shapiro. Similarly. And that's what they would do. Seth Dillon will team up with Rachel Maddow before he ever teamed up with Nick Fuentes. Seth Dillon would also probably, team up with, insert any of the most insane people. Seth Dillon would partner with AOC before probably even agreeing halfway with a half-baked take from Joel Webben. That's the game. That's some of the control mechanism. That's gatekeeping. But here it is. Let's go ahead and listen to CNN and apologize for making people listen to CNN, but here it is.
Backlash following Tucker Carlson's interview with anti-Semitic influencer Nick Fuentes. The Heritage Foundation's defense of Tucker Carlson led a prominent Jewish lawyer to quit the Heritage Foundation's National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism. That lawyer posted yesterday, quote, "I cannot serve under someone who thinks Nazis are worth debating. Here is my resignation letter." And here now is the author of that letter, Mark Goldfeder. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. So you are just one of many prominent voices we've heard really criticizing the Heritage Foundation as well as Carlson and Fuentes. The president of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, he denounced Nick Fuentes' views, but he defended Tucker Carlson for giving him a platform. In your resignation letter, you wrote, quote, "Free speech protects the right to speak. It does not compel anyone to provide a megaphone for a Nazi."
And to provide some clarification again for anyone who might not know, the guy who is being interviewed by the CNN anchor is a lawyer who had worked for the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation, infamously over this weekend, because of their president, Kevin Roberts, gave a statement about not disavowing or canceling Tucker. He has very, 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 very quickly caved and folded to the pressure. He was ramrodded by Dana Loesch on her show The First, as well as a few other people on the same day. And now he's got another statement, and we're going to look at that after this one too, because the best caption that I saw is from Dissident Soaps, and they wrote, which is a good company, by the way. Look up their, they have soap. They're a Dissident Right company who makes soap, Dissident Soaps. I don't even know if they still follow me or not, but the point being here, though, is that Kevin Roberts is in no man's land now, which is to say he very clearly felt a certain type of way after being asked to disavow Tucker. He came out as the president of this organization, gave a 3-minute statement about how they're not going to disavow him. And now he's basically, again, as it says in the caption, he's in no man's land. He's basically like holding this like very principleless, very specific and nuanced position now, simply because like he has nowhere to go because he was pressured so badly by the pro-Zionist crowd. And just to give you, that little bit of contextual stuff. And so this is the lawyer who quit the company. And I believe many others have now quit the company too from the Heritage Foundation. But the point to remain that needs to be added in here for anyone who does not know is that Project Esther, the public-private partnership, was born out of the think tank that is the Heritage Foundation. So understand, it's not like Kevin Roberts is like this, he's like this hero and we should have expected more. It was even odd in the first place that he came out and said anything anyways, because it's his project, Project Esther, coming from his think tank organization that a lot of people are terrified of in terms of the censorship apparatus as it pertains to how we're going to Patriot Act 2.0 anti-Semitism in America. So I want to add all of that context before we play the rest of it, in case anyone's like, what the hell's going on?
Quote. So explain for some people out there who might not understand, why is this not an issue about free speech?
Sure. Well, what Roberts did was he conflated a lot of issues. First, he conflated criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. Anyone is allowed to say whatever they want about the state of Israel. Sometimes it's anti-Semitic, sometimes it isn't. You should call it out when it is. But to pretend that what Nick Fuentes was saying when he asked for the death penalty for perfidious Jews was somehow criticism of Israel is completely disingenuous.
Well, so the reason why, it's funny, Jason Smith says they missed the opportunity to call it Project Anne Frank. The reason why it is called Project Esther is because the story of Esther in the Bible, the book of in the Bible, it talks about, right, Haman being this individual who basically was seeking to decree and bring about get these rules and these laws passed that would bring about the destruction of the Jews. And so they call it Project Esther because Esther stood against Haman, right? And you can find this kind of language in a lot of the rhetoric here. But they leave us Emily Eustace, who highlighted a previous older article in my Project Esther documentary, where you can find Israelis saying so many Hamans and so little Purim. And like they'll say the American people are Haman. It's a way to say anti-Semitic, but you would have to know like a little bit, you have to get a little bit more into there. But good comment there, Jason.
Then to your point, he conflated cancellation with not giving a platform to a Nazi. Free speech that anyone can say whatever they want. But the free speech also includes freedom of association.
This is
and the freedom not to associate.
the Jewish lawyer who has
for everybody,
shit webcam.
self-included, and it
Bro,
should be heritage.
spend
Is free
$40.
to walk away from Tucker.
All right, Mark, unfortunately, we're having audio problems.
Hey, I get it, brother.
Thank you so much.
Good night, James Mark.
For
Have a good one,
coming
man.
on. Let's bring this conversation back
Appreciate
out
you being here.
to the panel, if we can. The Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro used more than 40 minutes of his show today to slam Carlson, to slam Fuentes, and to slam Kevin Roberts from the Heritage Foundation. Here's just some of what he had to say.
If Republicans decide to cower before the likes of neo-Nazis and their propagandizers, they deserve to lose. And they will lose. Neo-Nazis and their propagandizers are not Republicans. They're not America First. They're not MAGA. They sure as hell aren't conservative.
I don't know
will
where
not
I sit
stand
on the
by
South.
while it is
It's a good
handed
one,
over
though.
to those who betray the most fundamental
That is a good
principles
one.
I've spent my entire life defending.
Shut up, Ben. What I will say is Christians do need to tangle with the idea that slavery was permissible, right? Like I do think like that in and of itself would be the one thing that I would defend in terms of Christianity and our misunderstanding of what equality actually means in the way that we have kind of propagated it here in the country. Yeah, the Jew spy's telling us what an American is. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Silly me, stupid Gore.
Advocating. That is a path to defeat and a path to moral oblivion.
So there you have Shapiro, Shermichael, making the argument not only is this immoral, but this is going to hurt Republicans in the end. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. I watched that earlier today. I know Ben. I was happy to see a number of conservatives sharing that on social media and even via email chains and text chains. That said, these ideas that are represented by Fuentes and the ideas that Tucker, at least platforms, because I don't know his personal.
Dude, what cafeteria did this lunch lady come from? Dude, she is hulking over this, brother. Dude, she's sitting in like an elevated chair or something, bro. She's a massive. All right, is this Dwayne the Rock Johnson's mother?
Thoughts are, but he's certainly giving these folks a huge megaphone, are not representative of the vast majority of the American people. And so what you're doing to the
She's
party by
mogging
platforming
him.
these ideals, you're making
Perfect time.
moderate-leaning conservatives, you're making independent-leaning conservative voters ostracized effectively by saying, I don't have a place in this party. The values that I hold are not belonging to the Republican Party of yesterday. And so I think if you're looking at this electorally speaking, you don't want to ostracize people you need by feeling they lack a sense of belonging. You want to ostracize the people who should not be in the party.
So one other thing, though, Karen, and Shapiro and others will note that this is a problem on the right, but it is also a problem on the left.
I think so, too.
There have been a lot of Jewish New Yorkers who have expressed real issues with the man that is likely to be the next mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, and their view that he has mainstreamed anti-Israel and anti-Semitic.
And that's a point to be made from the last show. The Republicans and Democrats were shitting in their pants over groypers. And that's the idea, right? If it wasn't effective, do you think they would be screaming at the top of their lungs? No.
Ideas such as globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people think is calling for violence against Jews, etc.
Yeah.
Do you see this as a bipartisan problem?
Not in the way that you're describing. I think looking at what's happened in New York, you're right. There are people who have some concerns, and I think Mamdani has tried to do a lot of work since the primary to address those concerns. I think he intends to do more around that if he is elected and make it more about a conversation about making sure New Yorkers feel safe, no matter what your background is, or no matter what your religious background is, no matter what your skin color is. But I think we also we can't look away from the fact that many of the same people were perfectly fine when Donald Trump hosted Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago some time ago and didn't really have
only
a problem
47%
with it.
of the nation voted last time.
About it. Not to mention what we saw
If I recall
in those text messages that were made public not too long ago from some college Republicans, some of whom were actually elected. So I do think the Republican Party has to take a hard look at what it's platforming and what it's not, what it's refusing to.
Like, They're literally celebrating an assassination, and they're over here now. Granted, I have no idea what this lady's political affiliation is. So I don't know if she's right wing or left wing, but this idea, like, hey man, dude, no, it's a no from me, dog. Like, no, we're not doing this. And in fact, anyone who does and participates in the policing of the language of our own side, like, is an enemy. You know, and I kind of hash this out a little bit with Crusader Pepe or the Erica Kirk stuff, but it's like, dude, like, anyone will become an instant enemy of mine the moment they tell me what is acceptable to talk about and what isn't. Right? You are no different than Seth Dillon when you try to police shit like that. But there is a faction of like that too on the right wing, and that's like another thing too, which is they're not Wignats, they're not Groypers, but it's like they are the brainchild of the current iteration of the GOP. We're talking basically everybody who has a slot at Blaze TV. So it's like, this is John Doyle. We're talking about Captive Dreamer. We're talking about Patrick Casey. We're talking about I mean, you could go on, and it's like they have this, what's the way to say it, dude? They're like this third faction in there. But they are the ones that are this kind of like, everybody stop talking about Israel crowd on the right. And that's who Crusader Pepper is with. That's this crowd of people. And all they do, seriously, is inflame things. They put out some of the most retarded content I've ever seen in my life. And it's uninspiring. It falls flat. And all they basically essentially act as are anti to Nick. So there is actually three factions here. Maybe there's even more than that. But it's just kind of goes into the idea of the balkanization of the right, which is there's going to be more than just like two. There's like multiple smaller different groups form out of that. I appreciate you being here, Dadsky. Appreciate you all the time, man. Have a good rest of your night, brother. God bless you as well, man. I'll more than likely see you tomorrow. Should see you tomorrow if I'm streaming. But the question is, what do you do with that? Right? What do you... Oh, Jenny from the block. Oh, I know Jenny from the block. No, nice seeing you. Appreciate that. But the balkanization, if it continues, if the longer we wait for United Front to be there, or something that we can, circle our wagons around, just like how Nick had said, the longer we open ourselves up to being even more balkanized than what we would like to be. And I do think that's a serious problem. I used to be of the mindset that I think we could just push, and kind of, worry about the finer ends later on. Now, I think some of that's true between like, Orthodoxy, Catholicism, and Protestantism. But some of these seem to be like they are too integral to some of these ideologies that we do probably need to find a better medium of which to disagree that doesn't come across such as making us immediate enemies, right? But so goes it in the far right, because we are unafraid to say our feelings. And so we don't dance around the corner. We don't play nice. And thus we make enemies easier. We burn bridges more often, if you will. Is Jenny DVD girl? I don't know. This hat though is pretty cool though. Actually, it's old though, man. It's very old. I had it when I was in college. I'm getting very old, man. So to look at Kevin Roberts, again, president of the Heritage Foundation, he had a statement here again because he's been on this tour. Let me put this on screen. This is from the Heritage Foundation itself, but this dissident soaps in again the caption here reading, "He backtracked and now he's truly in no man's land." So this is about 5 minutes long. I don't know if we'll watch the whole thing, but this is, again, to show you the mechanism of the pressure campaign against him, smearing the Heritage Foundation. We saw the CNN remark, right? Lawyers quitting. You have other people writing in articles. They're not going to work with the Heritage Foundation anymore. I think you even saw, I don't know if it was the JCA or if it was the ZOA, but one of them was like, they were outright like, we're going to cut all of our partnerships with Kevin Roberts and the Heritage Foundation. Like they immediately, all because he said he was not going to cancel or disavow Tucker. In addition to that, what he did say in his original statement too, was he put out a statement saying he abhors Nick Fuentes. So the real thing that they were getting at was the fact that he even canceling and not platforming Nick wasn't good enough. He has to go all the way. And he didn't do it. And how dare this American not do what he was told? So we'll take a listen. We'll see how much I can handle. But it's there's no improvement here, and it's just a continually falling into this again no man's land.
A few days ago, I posted a video truly with the best of intentions. I and Heritage don't engage in canceling people. Because when you cancel people, especially in the age of social media, if in fact you do that because you want their audiences to get smaller, you make their audiences bigger. And there's the whole thing of
the super chat.
Loyalty toward friends.
Thank you. I have them off on the screen for now.
Pretty proud Generation Xer. My motivation, having seen over the last 25 years, basically the entirety of my professional career, that men and women of all ages, but especially in my generation, have been canceled from every industry. My motivation was to draw a line in the sand and say, let's stop that. You have a problem with the content, you have a problem with the issues, you have a problem with the ideas, by all means, go debate them. But I have to tell you, to the students, that this old history professor made a mistake. And I'm not saying that your professors at Hillsdale make mistakes. But sometimes you can make a mistake with the best of intentions. And my mistake was not saying we aren't going to participate in cancel culture. We're not.
This is bad.
My mistake was letting that, which we will never backtrack from, override the central motivation that I had in doing that. Because I can tell you as an old professor, but also as a dad of 4, there's one of those ideas that really worries me. It's an idea that has become cachet, not just on the left, but on the far fringes of the right. And that's anti-Semitism. And so let me say...
I'm not doing this, dude. Kevin, you are an absolute disgrace, dude. Hand in your American citizenship, go burn your passport, go call Israel and beg them just like Glenn Beck did. Dude, this is fucking pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. I'm not listening to any more of that, dude. Holy shit. So, how about you debate the ideas then, Kevin? How about you yourself debate the ideas, Kevin, Mr. Roberts, Mr. probably soon to be former president of Heritage Foundation? And better yet, we're about to go to Steven Crowder, who is even more of a cuck. I don't know if he's more of a cuck than Kevin Roberts. That's actually gonna be hard to top. But he won't. Kevin Roberts verbatim said he won't even platform Nick. He's afraid of these ideas. He won't platform them and just wants to cancel. Like, that is called not being principled. You cannot lead this thing by saying we don't believe in cancel culture, yada, 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 and then fall into this like, oh, I need to now start poisoning the well around this idea. It is like, do you believe in the words that are coming out of your mouth or do you not? And how maybe you're just getting paid too much. $7,000 per post, Kevin Roberts? No, I doubt that. Just, what are we doing, bro? And I'm just irritated. It's like, don't call yourself an American if you're going to cuck out like that. Like, that is exceptional levels of cuckoldry, or cuckoldry, I should say. Where was that one super chat? It's from John Smith.
John Smith has donated
Nick Fuentes is
$4.99 and says Nick Fuentes is a fig.
I wonder if he misspelled the word there. I do appreciate the super chat though, man. Thank you. I'll take it even if you want to talk shit. Trust me. I am not sitting on piles of cash. That is a fact. And I appreciate that. Sean Lee Gardner said, just finished your NF bid. Good job, bro. I appreciate that. And I have quite a few of them. I think it's probably why a lot of people don't like me. Call me Nick fanboy, which I am, right? Loyal. Nick loyalist. I might start doing it just to troll my own chat. Just to piss you guys off. But let's go to Steven Crowder. Let's get this to be full circle here. Let's see what these other commentators, these other politicos, because I mean, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Steven Crowder, right? Guy's got a show. He goes out in person, right? He was one of the first people, I believe, who even after Charlie Kirk's assassination went out in public, right? He's not afraid. He'll tackle ideas. He will meet you where you are. He will have a conversation with you. This right here is 3.5 minutes of Steven Crowder saying that there's a right way and a wrong way to have the conversation. Crowder is utterly controlled opposition. I don't know what happened to Crowder, but it has been bad. Crowder is bad. Like it went from like questionable to very bad very quickly. So here it is.
But let me first clarify what should not be a disqualifying factor. And I don't see some of these people there understanding this. Interviewing controversial figures should not be disqualifying at all. Whether it's Nick Fuentes, whether it's Vladimir Putin, whether it's Sergei Lavrov, whether it's Dugin, who we interviewed, Jeffrey Sachs, or Clint Howard, the lady nun.
I was like, wait, what?
These are not disqualifying factors, nor are bow ties or recently becoming enamored with fly fishing or even putting bow ties on the fish that you fly.
So we thought it would be interesting to take a look at a contemporary, modern-day, 2024 Russian grocery store 2 years into sanctions. Here we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart.
Oh, he discovered Aldi.
Yeah.
So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it. Come on.
Trader Joseph Stalin's.
Unicorn and mini mills.
Dude, cringe. Never make a joke again. Whoever said that.
And we all came in around $400, about $400.
Dude,
it was
absolute dead silence, dude. None of the other guys
US
laughed.
here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought. Corruption. If you
it still
take
matters.
people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us.
A flipped asset.
Well, what about Russian leaders literally imprisoning people for holding the wrong political perspectives? Or the fact that 60% of all Russians spend at least half of their income on food because of how poor they are. It should give you pause if someone simps for Sharia law.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this on its head. I'm going to use all of Steven Crowder's logic and use it on him. So which war criminal has been making the rounds in the American Congress and among a bunch of influencers, has been having private meetings with influencers in this country? Did Steven Crowder one time attack Tim Pool for not being tough on Netanyahu? Did Steven Crowder call out Deborah Leah for not calling out Netanyahu for being a war criminal and the genocide ongoing in Gaza? Has Steven Crowder called out Brandon Tatum after he had to sit down with Netanyahu just a couple weeks ago for why he didn't press him on the war crimes and the war criminal that Netanyahu is? No, he didn't. And why is that, actually? Why is that? Why? It's because Crowder is biased. He's either being paid or he's being threatened to hold some ridiculous position because the logic falls flat on its face if you compare it to any other instance. He is clearly and obviously a part of this concerted opposition to what is going on, to what is clearly an organic, well, I don't know if you could say clearly organic, but what seems to be massively organic across all of the social media platforms all at once, which is Nick Fuentes and many other of those ideas adjacent to that blossoming. But this is what this video is. This video is about why Steven Crowder acting as if he, and this is the thing part two, which is like the idea that we all like that's the first thing. It's the premise. It's the foundation of what he's making this argument on. It's what it says. So you end up having, and it's crazy, man. Well, you end up having this argument being based off of everybody already knows that these ideas being presented are bad. So it's bad that Tucker didn't confront them. It's like, hold on. When did we all get together and agree that the ideas being presented by this person are bad? Right? Like I'm sorry. Like I forgot, like I was supposed to check in with Steven Crowder before I interviewed somebody because Steven knows what ideas are good and what ideas are bad. It's like, yeah, no. But that's the premise and foundation that they're all running with Ben Shapiro, with Dana Loesch. That it's like that they don't have to give you an argument that you should already have understood it's bad. And why do they rely on that? It's because every element of our society through all the institutions, they are captured this way. Hollywood has about, like, Lord knows how many movies about World War II. You don't even need an argument there because everything else proliferally has reinforced it to you that bad. But no one's explaining it to you They're just mad at you that you didn't know it already. And they're mad because the propaganda should have worked. Why is it not working? Gosh, dude, these people are despicable.
Sharia law is bad, Seth. I don't know if you've heard that. It's bad. It's worse than what's happening in New York and Detroit. It's just bad.
Correct.
I don't know why. You should know, Seth, that the real danger is Sharia law. Sharia law. And you can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, like, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this.
Now do Kandahar.
A rape rate of 0, where you leave your keys in your Lamborghini and don't ever worry about it being stolen. And, you know, if people want to get wasted, they do it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Now, before Steven says something retarded, the funniest thing I think I've seen was a post that went viral of, it was Sydney Sweeney, but she was wearing the full burqa, I believe was the name. And someone quoted it and was like, based? Because obviously they're saying, like, you know, if Zoran wins mayor in New York, they're like, this is going to be Sydney Sweeney in New York. And what they don't get is, like, there's a lot of guys who are in the Christian conservative side who are like, yeah, like, maybe we don't obviously go all the way to burqa, but the idea being is like, yes, women should be pressured a lot more societally to wear clothes. We're going too far in this liberal direction, and I would say argue extremely far into the opposite direction, right? Which is, you know, there's a lady who argued against porn, but then said bikini photos aren't pornographic. It is like, for one, get out of the conversation, but two, like, no, that's so dumb. Like, you should be pressured pressured, but also like shamed. Like, we don't want these things in a Christian society, right? We want our Christian society to reflect Christian values. Women in leggings and flaunting their big old bitties all over the internet, everywhere you look. You know, Kai Schwimmer from Kai Clips, he had a great take on this, which is this extreme super stimuli that you know, and largely for men and women, but men more specifically, it seems, being just everywhere you look. You know, you can't scroll on Instagram for longer than 2 seconds. Hell, you can't even open Instagram without the first photo you see being a IG model. And it goes all these different directions, right? It's advertisements on not a New York Times article, that's a bad example, but say like the Guardian or the Daily Mail. Half the advertisements are like, you know, do you want to play the sexy, horny game with me? You look, I mean, dude, if I go and show you my DMs, it will haunt you. It will haunt you how many porn bots there are that are like, I need a boyfriend, yes. And half of them are all wearing scantily clad stuff. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. And that's not normal. That is such a far and away difference from how it used to be back in, like, you know, you see those stuff in the medieval times, right? They didn't have makeup in the medieval ages. They really didn't even have colored clothes back in the medieval ages. Like, it was a sign of royalty to have color to your clothes, right? And that's why, you know, purple, that's where purple comes from, because it was a hard color to maintain. But this idea that, like, there's, and again, it's disingenuous, and I think it's disingenuous because I would expect that Stephen probably should at some point maybe read what's happening in the news. And I know he is, so he's just ignoring it. Like, are you seriously telling me that you entirely are omitting the fact that there's a crowd of people being led by, you can throw in Nick, Stone Choir, Joe Webbin. You could just go down the list of all these people who are pushing this stuff. They don't exist. They would be, you know, kind and open to this idea, and not of Sharia law, but the idea of, like, you know, making women wear clothes. Stupid stuff, man. But this is the James Lindsay effect. This is where they want to go. They want to go back to 2012 America and stay there forever. And we all know that's just not happening.
And you guys caught that, right? You said a rape rate of 0.
Yeah.
Do you know the statistical likelihood of there being a rape rate of 0 in an Islamic country? Ironically, it's 0. You guys remember this, right? January 1st, 2021, when some of these texts were revealed, we said, we are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately. That seems pretty cut and dry. Is there inconsistency in the subject, in this case, Tucker Carlson, in their own views that they espouse? Is it very hard to keep track of? And is there inconsistency with what has been relatively established as conservative, America first, nationalist values? I would say yes. And that has nothing to do with interviewing Nick Fuentes, who maybe, you know, we'll have on the show at some point in the future. I'm sure I would agree with him on some things and disagree with him on a whole bunch of things. Probably would be less of a debate, and certainly not like a softball like Tucker Carlson. Like, that's what an interview serves. That's its purpose, is to get answers, usually from the person most qualified to give those answers. But if you just skim past them, that's where I think you're right to be skeptical.
And it's like, did he not watch it? Like, Tucker asked questions and Nick gave answers. Again, the anger comes from the fact that, you know, Tucker didn't do his job. He didn't toe the line. He didn't do the thing that they were supposed to be doing. Okay, Stephen, all of the words that you just uttered here are entirely empty unless you're about to extend yourself like you do it. You show us, Stephen. Stephen, since everyone else can't do it, you and Seth Dillon should tag team this, since you both keep opening your mouths nonstop about how Tucker did such a terrible job. Open up your platforms and you host them. Show us how it's done. Show us how you're supposed to really interview somebody and get questions. Because you know what it's going to look like? It's going to look like every single 60 Minutes interview or CNN kind of special episode that was ever done with Trump, which was they weren't even trying to have an interview. They were trying to just attack him and make these stupid points the entire time. That's what Stephen wants to do. Stephen, you became what you hated. And in fact, maybe you accepted the money to that point, right? He was paid into being something he originally opposed. And I typically don't even have any problems, you know, with Crowder until recently, but recently it's been so bad. Like, I mean, is he being threatened? Like, I mean, he doesn't even have a wife anymore, right? He's divorced. It's like, you're a free man, dude. Like, just be a decent human being. I don't know. Maybe that's asking too much, you know. And Tucker did actually respond to some of these allegations on Dave Smith, which I won't play that, but you can find that. Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson sat down, and they seem to be on the same team now. But that's kind of bringing us full circle to largely like what a lot of this reaction is here. For a couple of smaller things, you know, I didn't have any community submissions or you know, Gay of the Day. I didn't have time to actually organize that. For anybody who's new here, you might not realize that. Coop. What is that? I don't know. Interesting. I was wondering if it would just hit me. It didn't. But so there's a couple smaller stories I would like to bring attention to before I do go ahead and get ready to sign off for too long. There's three kind of stories going on. Well, multiple stories going on. There's a quote that came out from Donald Trump. Then we're going to get back into the political stuff. That's less Nick here. There's a quote that came out from Donald Trump about his fear of losing heavily in the upcoming midterms. And there are multiple, forgive me, like marquee elections coming up. So we have the New York City mayoral race, which is like by far and large, Zohran's going to win that. You also have two governor races happening, one in New Jersey and the other in Virginia. Now, we've covered the one in Virginia a little bit here. And funny enough, that's the one where the Democrat is looking to win. So much so that Donald Trump hasn't even it's not even been worth the effort of endorsing the Republican candidate opposing the Democrat, because the numbers just aren't there for her. But Donald Trump did fully endorse the New Jersey Democrat. And funny enough, out of all of those that I just mentioned, the only one that had bomb threats at voting locations was in New Jersey. And so what we're having here is Donald Trump realizing that he is entirely being protected, encapsulated, bubbled. You know, his quote was something to the effect of like, we're winning bigly, but I don't understand like how we're going to be losing the midterms. And it's like, because you're not winning, like everyone's lying to you. Maybe you're lying to yourself. Like you're not winning in any sense of the definition. You're not holding yourself to your own mandates. Who did he endorse? The New Jersey candidate is Jack Citrelli. I don't know if I pronounced that right. But yeah, the New Jersey Republican candidate is Jack Citrelli. So right there, you have three potential like big losses coming up on deck. And the New Jersey one, which I've not looked into the numbers specifically, we're losing. And that's the reason why. It's like you didn't give people a reason to come back out in the midterms to vote because you are failing to uphold what they put you in office for in the first place. It is sad though. So hopefully the guy in New Jersey can win. But it looks like bomb threats are being pulled out to New Jersey just to help prevent against stuff like that. And I don't know who the Democrat candidate is in Jersey who he's running against. Actually, I didn't look that too deep into it. But to go back to Virginia, though, the reason why Virginia is so like it's glaring is because Virginia is where the J. Jones scandal comes from. Anybody remember Jay Jones? The guy who wrote like at length to a random colleague of his who he accidentally mistext in the first place, but just had to say these things. So Jay Jones, again, this guy who is like, who basically lost his mind because fellow Democrats in his jurisdiction gave a eulogy to somebody who was considered a centrist. And he got irritated him to such a degree that he tried texting somebody who he actually didn't text because he mistexted and actually started texting another person, but that didn't stop him. And he goes into full detail about how he thinks that people, his opponents, and in particular, one of the guy who gave the eulogy, needs to, or him and his wife need to watch their children be harmed to change their political views. He's still running for AG, for Attorney General in Virginia. The Virginia governor candidate, her name is Abby, I always forget her name, but her name is Abby, and she is running for Virginia governor. She's the one who's also endorsed Jay Jones, refused to ask to call for him to step down from the race. That's who's winning in Virginia right now. So tell me at any point, MAGA at all, how we are winning. You got you grafted all of the credibility that you possibly could have, taking, pulling the wool over our eyes with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and all of these supposedly great picks. You have nobody to blame but yourselves. And truth be told, like, you have right now a generation of young men and women alike who are chomping at the bit for a conservative-led coalition to retake and give and restore the values to which this country once stood upon. It is all your fault. You have no one to blame but yourselves that you cannot get the very willing components to come out and want this. If you're not getting them to the vote, well, what else can you say? I mean, this is the most conservative. Gen Z is the most conservative generation of the last 7 or 8. You clearly have an extreme Overton window shift. So where's the hunger? Where's the hunger to do these things? And you go, oh, that's right. That's right. It's because the people who were in office weren't actually conservative. They were using it as a skin suit to simply do with what they wish. J.D. Vance in particular. J.D. Vance, it don't matter what. If he sees a winning team, he will change whatever he has to. First name, last name, his entire political ideology. That's who he will be. A chameleon. And just like Christianity, the same way they do conservatism, it's because MAGA has been using it as a skin suit. Like nothing about MAGA lately, maybe in the early iteration of 2016, as just a general response to what's going on was, but there's no conservatism left here. The people who are left in MAGA are the ones who defended Calendargate, are the ones that said, yes, Christian women should get naked. The ones who do have husbands, they should take bikini photos for other men in this country. Like we bottomed out on conservatism, and MAGA's taken the cake on the rest of these, these weird kind of secular liberal types that exist in MAGA. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And being the pragmatist, you can only operate with what you have. So with that, let the message be: stop ankle biting Nick. Get behind Nick. America first, America only. I know there's going to be some crossover between, Zeb Boykin and I and Outside the Overton. And it's like, dude, the thing is like, we're all friends. And ultimately, like, we do all have the same goal. So like, don't let the small disagreements cloud your judgment from who is really your ally, who is on your side. Like, is Arval really your enemy? Or is it the guy with blue hair who like can't even read and is being fed, EBT food stamps out of a Kroger printer? And he's sucking on a lollipop, and he's got some weird fed. I mean, like, come on, like let's not lose sight of like what the real goals are here. And let's not usher in, negative violent elements that we don't need. And at the end of the day too, Christ is king. Seek first the kingdom of God. You can find that in Matthew. And I myself need to do a much better job at being an upstanding Christian individual, Christian man, Christian father at that. And I encourage many of you to join me in that journey. But with that, that's where I'm going to leave it. I do appreciate everybody who is here. I saw a lot of new faces. I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll see you next time as well too. Expect more of this to come down the pipeline. I think as of right now, Thursday's show might not be happening. So keep that in mind. Thursday Offensively Accurate is up in the air, might not be happening, but I should be here tomorrow. I appreciate all of you guys. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Christ is King, deport Kash Patel, ban Pam Bondi and all other women from public life. And Lord, please let us get our country back. I'll see you guys next time. Everybody take care. Have a good night.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out. I have a question for you. Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.